5 years ago, Dirty Dancing. I loved it. I still love it. I rewatched it. It's been a few years, but I rewatched it, and I'm like, I love this movie. It's so good. I'm gonna sit here and gush. That's just for. I don't know what gushing looks like. Like, little hearts coming out of my. I mean, who does not love this movie? Tell me, write to me, say if you do not love this movie, and then I'll tell you why you don't love this movie. But, I mean, really, what's not to love? First of all, you've got Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey, and here is already the start of brilliance, because Jennifer Grey is your every girl. She is not the... they wanted Pia Zadora. They wanted Sharon Stone. I mean, I don't know how many people did screen tests for this. It's insane. Do not get. I mean, there's one thing I stand by is that the writer she pushed and she pushed and she pushed for Jennifer Grey. She also pushed for Patrick Swayze, by the way. And that is brilliant. I mean, do one thing right. Well, two things. If you're a writer, you have to write the right story. But the second thing, apparently she had the power. I don't hear about that very often. It may have to do with the fact that it was a made-for-video movie. And ended up, blessed be, in the cinemas. And we got to see it. But the casting is with... I cannot envision anybody else. I mean, like, I'm telling you, gosh, I can't not gush about this. If Jennifer Grey wasn't so real, you have those close-ups of her where she's helping out getting the luggage from the car, and she's helping out this is one of the things about why we love her character, because she's always pitching in. She moves between classes. She's classless, and she's just being herself, and you look at her face and you go, that's it's either I want her for my best friend, or I want her to live next door to me, or I want her, I want to come to her birthday party. I mean, I'm speaking from a 16-year-old perspective. I'm 50 now. Whoever grows older than 16, there's always a 16-year-old in us. But she is so real, and especially how she bumbles around the dancing to start with is like, yes! What a woman wants out of movies like this is you want to be able to think that that could have been me. And then she gets to dance with Patrick Swayze. Not just dance, dirty dance. Oh, come on. What is not to gush here? Patrick Swayze apparently was 35 when he filmed this. Who knew? I wouldn't have known. I thought he was maybe 28 and playing 20. Apparently he was 35 playing 25. I still think that his character is not a 25-year-old. I think he's either that or he's so unworldly, and he probably is. He has probably seen zero of the world. All he's done is do that dance education and then start working at these resorts. And he says when he can't work at these resorts, Johnny character, right? When he can't work at these resorts, he's eating well, whatever. I mean, these days you would say he's eating ramen, but from the supermarket. That's not what he was eating, obviously. But he makes a remark like that. It is very, very poor. The only other option that he had in the story was his father would get him into the union of home painters, and that meant not that it wasn't a decent job, because it was, but that meant his life was over for him. and that's why he did this. So he's not entirely from the dredge of society, but he is from the lower working classes that had no other recourse but to follow in his father's footstep and go into the same union. Either it is, like in Roseanne, when they all go to the same, work at the same factory because it repeats over and over again. So stuck in their class and never having any sense of going out of the class. Also because their parental guidance they don't know how to get them anywhere else. So he actually burst out of that by not hanging around and doing this dance instructor training when he could, and he got damn good. I mean,
Patrick Swayze.
It's Patrick Swayze, and apparently Patrick Swayze's brother has remarked, no, he's actually much better than that, because he is a super properly, massively trained ballet dancer. Said he could have danced a lot better than that, but he toned it down for this movie. I'm thinking, toned it down?
Make it realistic.
That shows how good an actor he is as well, to make that acting choice and to know. I mean, a good ballet dancer will know when to use his ballet moves and when not. There's not a lot of ballet moves in here. He has all the ballroom dancing moves, and they're so good. If you've seen a lot of these ballroom shows, then you start seeing the posture that he has is beyond beyond what Jennifer Grey can do. She can learn it, and she's baby in the story, Frances. She learns it, but you can see that he's got it. He's got the 20 years of training. I will stop gushing about that now. I actually skipped over the summary. Has anyone not seen this movie? So it's in the Catskills. It never says that in the movie, by the way. So for me, as a Dutch person, I'm good with any summer resort, an in-country summer resort. It doesn't have to be the Catskills. Everybody on the internet says it's the Catskills. Well, nowhere in the film do they say that. The summary. As far as I'm concerned, okay, we've got a 1963 backdrop. They specifically stated that it is pre-JFK shooting. This is a Romeo and Juliet meets girl coming of age story. That is what I think it is. Internet tells me that it is about Frances Baby Houseman, who falls in love with the camp's dance instructor, Johnny Castle. Is that the story, really? Is that all there is to this movie? No, that's almost the backdrop of the movie. This is actually a plot-driven drama. A lot of films that are made for teen girls or women in general are all poo-pooed about, oh, it's only about this. It's only about a woman that's so-and-so'd. No. This is a massive social commentary on the times, on class systems, the whole fact that this is that it is the Catskills and that it's only a Jewish resort and all of that, which is subtextual. It's the only subtextual thing I found in the thing, because everything else is in your face. For instance, because the abortion that needs to take place. First thing you talk about this movie is the dancing. But the second thing you need to talk about with this movie is that there's an abortion in the movie. If you do not have that abortion storyline, even though it's not by the main character, it's all side characters, you don't have a story. Everything is driven by the fact that this young woman was put into an untenable situation. Nobody will help her. And all of the people that we are following in the story, Johnny, Frances, Baby, I'm not fond of calling her Baby, because it's stupid. She's 19, according to... I always thought she was 15, 16, but she's 19, and she probably has to be.
Even 15, 16, she shouldn't be called Baby.
Yeah. And that's they say that anyway. Literally everything is text. There is so little subtextual stuff. It's this, she's saying that everybody still called me baby, and if they do that at 19, who's calling her baby? Her friends? The school? How does that work? I can't imagine that. I mean, does she mean everybody? She means her parents? Everybody at the resort? Like her personal social environment calls her baby? Okay, fine, but very strange. I can't. That part to me that's fiction, but sure. So she's this young woman who has learned from her father, whom she completely adores, that everyone is the same, everyone is equal, and we should all fight for justice in this world. And then she goes out in this film as the only person who treats everybody equal and tries to find justice for where she can and help people where she can. Everybody else is stuck in the early 60s in this movie. So it's automatically a commentary on the times. It is a social, economic, class system. Everything is commentary on the time. They actually, when they get to the vacation home, she starts sneaking around. Because we have to see everything through baby's eyes. Fine, so we do that. And she sneaks around when Mr. Kellerman, who owns the place, is instructing the waiting staff, which is all white young males from Yale and Harvard. He specifically says that. So there's no doubt. And this is like, okay, 1980s youth and adults, please remember that in the 50s this was very important, that you had the waiting staff were like eligible for the young women. He even says so, that they're supposed to entertain the young women with a ha next to it, entertain and more. So find yourself girlfriends is effectively what they're saying. It's a matchmaking situation. And that then Johnny and his dancing troupe walks in, and they get the brush off by everybody. You know, you're the staff. You stay away from the ladies, from the girls. You keep to yourselves. You just do. So it's that gives you very clear class distinctions. Everyone's white. There is no diversity in this except for the Jewish aspect, but they don't address it. Tropes in this film. The tropes. Well, one of the tropes is rewriting history. It's a nostalgia fantasy, because as much as they try to tell you, hey, this was back then, this was how this was, baby may not have existed. Frances Houseman, as she was there, as wonderful as she is to try to be a bridge and be completely self-sacrificing. She was supposed to go into it wasn't the Salvation Army. She was supposed to be on some other very selfless thing later on. If she didn't exist in this movie, then it would probably be very unpalatable to watch, and then it would just be a social commentary. Now, the fact that she does exist in this movie gives us a possibility of a love story, a possibility of a protagonist that we really, really enjoy because she is us. And then everyone else can bounce off of that, and she can bounce off of everyone else, and of course emerge victorious after lots of problems. And that's fine. So the love story is crossing social boundaries. There's your Romeo and Juliet a thing, which may end up in a happily ever after for them, or may not. People seem to be discussing this. I have never thought that this movie said that Johnny and Frances would be together forever. This is not what that movie is about. This is about the coming of age, not only of her, but also of him. He also has an emancipation storyline in this movie, and that ends at the end because he has fallen in line with what is expected of him, of a decent guy, and he's been over and over stomped down for it. He takes responsibility for his dance partner, but now everybody thinks that he knocked her up, which he didn't. And there's no point in him going to any of the higher ups in this resort and say, hey, that uppity Yale student did it, because nobody's going to believe him. So the class system is such a heavy divide that Frances doesn't see it. Baby doesn't see it. She thinks already like the 1980s person would want to think. Although there was still a lower class, middle class, upper class divide in the 1980s, as there is today. So we're still aspirational. It makes it a young adult movie, not a teen movie. Although teen, young adult, what's the difference? Well, young adult, I would say, there you have the question of abortion. You have the question of the wrong boyfriend. Will your father? Will you go against your father's wishes because you believe that this is the right boyfriend for right now? Is my opinion. And I'm sticking to it. Yeah, you can do that. The everything in this movie is actually a young adult theme, not a teen theme, and that works. Adults watched it. We know that. Everybody watched it. It was the best selling movie of that year. So the sister, baby's sister, is dating the waiter, the Yale student that knocked up the dance partner. And that's a mini storyline that weaves through the movie. And at the end, she opens the door when she says to baby, tonight's the night. I'm thinking she spent the entire vacation working up to tonight's the night. And then she opens the door and he's already doing it with one of the elderly lady, not elderly, but the middle-aged ladies he's doing it with everybody basically. And it's like, well, you lucked out as far as I'm concerned. That's perfect.
Isn't she the older sister?
She's the older sister. Yeah, she's the older sister. I think so. That's how I thought it. I honestly never asked the question.
Because they call they call Frances baby.
Yeah,
so
maybe
she has
she's.
to be the younger
Well, then
sister.
if Frances is already 19 canonically, which I thought she was 17, but what I think is because I thought she was 16, 17, because I wouldn't find that a weird age to have your first sexual experience
and still be on holiday with your parents.
Exactly, and internet tells me she's 19, and I'm thinking, okay, but then the older sister would be 21. I don't know what to do with that.
She doesn't act.
Please
like
tell us. Yeah. We may have opinions on this, but we don't know how to express them right now. So give us yours. I don't know. And that would be at 21. She would be her first clandestine sexual experience. I mean, anybody at
21, she should be looking for a husband. If that's what she's going for.
Yeah, I think maybe the sister's younger. I don't know.
But
why would the older sister be nicknamed baby? That makes no sense. The whole baby thing makes no sense. It's also not necessary for the movie. It does create the beautiful line, nobody puts baby in a corner. But other than that, what's the point?
Could have been Frances, nobody puts Frances
in a corner. Yeah, or nobody puts my girl in a corner. Or nobody puts your kid in a corner. Whatever. Probably wouldn't roll off the tongue that well. I found my notes.
My girl is a good one.
My girl.
Yeah.
Baby Frances wanted to go into the Peace Corps. I found my notes. She wanted to go into the Peace Corps. Before that, she was going to study economics of underdeveloped countries. Love it. Yes. She ignores rules. She's a nice girl. She sneaks around. I said with the sneaks around was like she sneaks in to have views of stuff. She's still exploring the world and not expressing herself at the beginning of the movie. She pitches in at every... I mean, she carries a watermelon. Remember the line? I carried a watermelon. And then she says, I carried a watermelon. Why did I say that? Well, because Patrick Swayze was looking at you and you went... What else are you supposed to do? That is perfectly acceptable. I loved the first scene where she is in the Dirty Dancing area and he is like, what's she doing here? What's she doing here? And then he gets he approaches her again. And then he dances with her and teaches her Dirty Dancing and she completely goes nuts over it. The thing about that is it shows that Johnny, he doesn't like that she's there because he sees all the problems. He knows why she can't be there. But he's also immediately drawn to her. And that shows his part of the love story. Because even though the love story is textually in there and we see them making love and all of that, but it's like, yes, you can see her smoldering eyes looking at him, but the first time she sees him, but we also have to understand his first initial reaction to her. And I find that that's in that scene, the fact that he actually goes dancing with her. And then the moment he realizes what he's doing, that he's out of there. He literally leaves her and standing there on the dance floor. That's very well depicted and probably attributed to the director, whose name I always forget. But I've got it in my notes. Emile Ardolino. Again, I'm going for the Italian pronunciation because I don't know. Baby Frances is a daddy's girl, but she goes to daddy to get the $250 for this abortion once she finds out about Penny, which is Johnny's dance partner, that she needs an abortion. And then Johnny later says, he says two things. He says that was really brave. Go ask daddy. And then later he says, you went and asked daddy for something illegal, and you lied, and that is brave. So at the same time he has this respect for her, but he also wants to push her away, and that is really well done. I can't make up my mind whether or not it's in the script or that the actors have done such a fantastic job with it, especially Patrick Swayze in this case, because he has less screen time than Jennifer Grey does. I don't know. Tell us your opinion. Johnny is supposed to be a wild boy. We can see that by the clothing they wear. Also, I got a little piece on the clothing actually, because of course I've got too many notes here. But the clothing is that he's always wearing dark stuff, and especially towards the end he starts to wear black leather, which makes him what's that Fonzie was? The Fonz was
the bad boy.
Bad boy, but it was a certain type of brosum. That kind of bad boy from the 50s, 60s. I think it's more maybe 50s even. Easy Rider, I don't know. But yeah, he starts to wear rebellious black, which I think after he got fired from the Kellerman's resort, and then he shows up with the black sunglasses and the black leather. But he's already always wearing dark, and she's always wearing really light white tops, everything,
Pastels.
Yeah. I have to say that the pivotal dancing scene that they did, where they go out to the other hotel to actually perform, is the get-up and the hairdo that they put on her is the ugliest ever. I don't know what style that was and whether other people enjoy it. Enjoy your enjoyment. I thought it was ugly, but it did sell it that this is a different day and age. And I know that in the 1980s, I was already looking at that. I was like, whoa, that's ugly. She had these beautiful curls before, because that's, of course, 80s. All her big curls is very 80s. But then they put it in a
Actual fashion of other ages always look ugly to a different age.
Yeah.
And I mean that's why they do faux fashions in period dramas, because we don't appreciate the actual fashion. We don't like it.
Yeah.
And the actual fashion is usually that way because they simply didn't have the nice materials and shampoos and stuff like that we have now.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, they only needed to do it for that one scene. And Frances does not look like herself at all, which is probably the point. She needed to look like his dance partner. She's also a head smaller than Penny, the dance partner. And here we come to the sexy moments of the show, of the film. Yes, I actually made a list of sexy moments. Starting off with every time Johnny dances dirty. Doesn't matter who he dances with or he dances alone. That's sexy, and I stand by that. I'm sticking to it. Baby's first dance with Johnny in the staff quarters I just mentioned already. Of course, that is like super hot. There's a baby sandwich. So Frances is being sandwiched between Penny and Johnny. And the Peanut Gallery says, yes, I remember that. I haven't seen the movie in 30 years, but I remember that. And they're playing Hungry Eyes. Oh my god. That is so good. And that's the kind of thing you go, well, I have digital now. I can just flip back and do it again. The way, it was to do posture. There's an excuse for that scene. There's a legit dancing excuse for that scene. But at the same time, this director has an eye. He can see that one. And I think that's one of the few scenes in the movie that isn't boxed in for 4:3. You would lose something if you go 4:3 rather than 16:9, because it was originally made for video, so it would have been boxing it for the television screen of the day and age, which was the simple almost square box. But that one is the three people, and they turn around, so you can see. If they hadn't turned around, then nowadays you wouldn't have to have them turn, because you have that space on your television screen. But it's, oh my god, that's gorgeous. You never forget that once you've seen it. Then there's Baby and Penny. Yeah, there's some sexy women stuff going on in this movie. They're practicing mirror movements on heels. I will try to get a screenshot of that here, because that is the two of them in the skimpiest of skimpinesses. Very, very high cut dance costumes, like ballet, gymnastic costumes, and then with tights all the way up to the top of their hips on heels. I think the point was to show that they needed to do mirror movements. They mirror each other, so that Frances could learn how to dance on heels, because they build it up really well in the film. If you watch it just for the dancing, they build it up where she is first doing it flat, and he says she has to go on her tippy toes, and then later they need to practice to do it on high heels. Good solid heels though, no spiky heels. It's all very sensible. You can just tell that the dancing was done so well. So yeah, more sexy moments. The water practice in the famous lake, which is the lake is now drained, and it has a memorial stone for our beloved Patrick Swayze. Yes, it was freezing cold, so cold that they couldn't take close-ups of this, because the amount of goosebumps was just not pretty. So they suffered for their art. Then there is, after the unfortunate abortion scene, where Penny comes back and baby gets her father and all of that, and all of that's over. Baby Frances comes to Johnny's room, and that's when we get to Cry to Me, the love scene, which apparently was cut from the American version the first time around. this is first I heard about it because I started researching it. But I'm like, what? I know it's a bit much. It is very. I mean, you're starting to think, how far can they push this? Fine. There is even gossip that there is a full nudity scene. I've not seen it. I haven't found it. I haven't looked for it. So if you found it, apparently that's out there. But I don't. I think it's so far it's gossip. But until I found it, then it stops being gossip. But I doubt that they would have filmed that. That makes no sense. It is 1980s America. They didn't film even straight to DVD, straight to video. They wouldn't film that because that's a porn movie. They already had enough problems with the name Dirty Dancing that this might be mistaken for a porn movie. One of the fathers of my friends actually did tell us that he did not like us going to the movie because I was 16 and so was my friend, and he literally said he couldn't keep us from going, but he was not happy with that, and my parents had no problem with it. It would have ratings it wouldn't be playing in the normal theaters here in the Netherlands if it was a porn movie. So I don't know what the deal was. Besides, we had so much nudity on television in the Netherlands. Who cares? There are 3 lovemaking scenes, very cleverly done. The first one is Cry to Me. That's the music playing, and that's the proper one. Watch that one. Just type it into your favorite video internet, well, the thing you're watching on this on now, and just type it in, you'll get it, and that's all you need to do. Then there's the next one, and it is a lot shorter, and there's a little bit of dialogue. Then they can get some of his background in, because that's hard, constantly following her around. So how do we get to know something about him? And then the third one is them just lying, and you only see their faces, and they've, it's post consummation, and it's really sweet. And then he has this fantasy. He says that he dreamed that his father would put his arm around him and say, "Come with me," like he did with, the Yale students. And that tells me he's not 25 years old. He's still a young man who really wants to have... 25 is young, I get it. But I'm thinking he's 20, 21.
He's the same age as the others.
Yeah. That is a fantasy of somebody who's still looking for a father figure. Yes, of course you would like a father-in-law figure to be welcoming and accepting. And at any age you would want that. But... To dream like that, we have to make allowances here, because Patrick Swayze was already 35, and I had no idea that he was. So they did a good job on, if there was any makeup, they did a good job on that, making him look a little younger. I don't know if there was. They used a corset slinky thing to give him a little bit of more of a defined V shape to his torso. I'm not sure that was needed, because not all guys have that anyway, but apparently that's what they did. You can see it in some of the scenes. What I think is more striking is the clothing he wears. At the end, when he goes to the father, Houseman, Dr. Houseman, to say goodbye right before the whole thing kicks off with the end finale. You've seen the movie, I don't need to tell you. But he comes to, I think he wants to talk to Francis, but the father comes to the door. And you get to see him full length because of the shot of him walking up the steps to that cabin. And note his shoes, note his slacks, note his... the jacket that he wears, where that cuts off, it's pure 1950s male fashion, good male fashion. Something you wouldn't wear. You wouldn't see no guy with those kind of shoes unless he needs to be fully, needs to be attending a funeral in the proper attire. possibly a wedding, depending on what country you live in. We're not so formal here in the Netherlands, but yeah, it was high glossy black shoes. Yeah, you would have more to say about the actual fashion. So yeah, maybe we'll do one on the period clothing of this, because there's a lot to be said. Of course, you got lots of A-line skirts in the movie, and they use it so well with all the twirling. But yeah, it's the clothing that there's some point every once in a while that does strike, and that actually sells who he is. Because he is not one of the vacationers. He is, even though he has put attention and care into his clothing, he is never going to be in the accepted crowd there. I also looked at diversity, because in the 1980s, American movies especially, were not terribly concerned with diversity. Nowadays, basically, if you're not concerned with diversity, you're not in the wrong business making movies. This is something I'd be really interested to see the remake of it, because I've not seen it, and you would need to bring something in there. Forget about any LGBTQ aspect of this film. There is nothing in here that would appeal to you. You might as well skip it. Unless you think either of the main characters are attractive for their own, for your own reasons, because I would say everyone in the movie is attractive in their certain way, and this is why I made such a point at the beginning about Jennifer Grey being the right person for this role, because she is attractive, but she is not a classic beauty, and that validates all women everywhere. It also validates that somebody could fall in love with the non-classic beauty, because what is that message of slick Hollywood telling us that we should only be in love with classic beauties and they all have to be white anyway? Yes, Peanut Gallery?
Yeah, no, agreed.
Okay. So it's strictly heteronormative, unless you put it in yourself, so forget that. The diversity is there. Not really. But what is there is the following.
They missed one. They should have made Johnny a Latino.
Okay, good point. Originally, Johnny was supposed to be Italian. That's not quite Latino, but it's close. It's at least Italian. So let's just say the script tried something. But then they cast Patrick Swayze, and he's from Texas. Now, I don't think that means that he can't be Italian or some other subgroup, but he would have to act that in. You would have to not just go with, okay, this is the look, maybe the classic black hair or whatever. He could paint his hair if that's your speed, but maybe not all Italians have black hair. There are other ways to make somebody an ethnicity, and from part of an ethnic group, even if their skin is white and their hair is sandy brown. There's a lot you can do, but very often they don't, because it's all about in your face. What is in your face, and otherwise it's not there. Not a fan. Not a fan. So I would have liked it if they had just given him an Italian name and just never addressed it. Because they put it in the Catskills, implying a Jewish setting. Everyone in the owner and all the vacationers have Germanic names. The Schumachers and the Housemans and the Kaufmans and the Kellermans. The Goldmans, there's so many mans in there.
Yeah, Yiddish names.
Yeah, so Germanic names that imply that this is a Jewish holiday resort, which it is, if you do the research. So that's the only subtext in the film that I've found, is that it is supposed to be, if you know, then it's Jewish. If you don't know, we want the WASP Americans to also watch it. WASP and other ethnicities that have no intimate knowledge of Judaism or Jewish Americans to all enjoy this movie. So let's just not say it, but everyone's got that name. Well, when I was 16, I noticed that the names were all of a certain style, but I didn't put it together that meant that this was actually a Jewish resort, because I had never heard of such a thing. But if you're into the resort worlds in America, then apparently you may know that these Jewish resorts existed, and that has a whole history to it, that in the early 20th century they needed them because Jews were banned from lots of resorts. Regarding diversity, the staff is predominantly white. There are black people in the background. Now, I have this beef with films that put black people in the background, because then you go, oh no, we have done, see, there are black people in this, in the background. No text, no lines. There's one person who is black and has a line, and
Wow.
I mean, hey, a line. So Mr. Kellerman, the owner of the resort, at the end is, like I said, everything is in the text. He literally says, over the last 30, 40 years, we've been running this. This is the end of an era. It's going by the wayside. And who does he say it to? The band conductor. And this is an elderly black man who has, a couple of, oh yes, I agree, and we had such a great time. I mean, I'm not quoting literally at all what he's saying, because it was just not, he didn't even add to the dialogue other than that he was there. I mean, yay, he was there, at least that's something, but do better. Even retroactively, do effing better. And then the dancers, there is a couple of black dancers, and they always dance together. Do you see my problem with that? If you do not see my problem with that, it's almost pointless to explain it. If you do, again, it's almost pointless to explain it. So you know what I'm talking about. I don't like segregation. Yes, in the 50s there would have been some. 60s, sorry, it's pre-Civil War, civil rights, the signing of the Civil Rights Act. But this is the northern states. We're in New York State, story-wise. That is not a southern state. There is no, what is it again, separate but equal. All that bullshit doesn't exist there. Also not in the 60s.
It did exist.
But there is still the fact that this resort is a Jewish resort is a long-standing result of systematic separating people, and they self-separated because they also wanted to have a nice place to vacation. So, yeah, even though this conductor is clearly a good old friend of Mr. Kellerman, it is too little, really too little, but it does show that in the 60s that it was practically impossible to slot any black people into there, but it also kind of shows that in the 80s they couldn't figure a way around it, which nowadays they're trying to find ways to bring people of color into the story, when originally you would say, isn't that just a story about white people? Yeah, because the white people got to publish their stories and they got to make the movies. So that's my beef. I think I've exhausted the film without. I hope you feel like rewatching it. I have a wonderful time watching it every single time. Puts a smile on my face. And sometimes when you've just had a panini, a pandemical panini, a smile on your face is perfectly fine. That's enough to watch a movie or rewatch a movie, and you can watch it with your kids. It's a little bit sexy times, but it's got a PG-13, so if a 13-year-old is not seeing that already on MTV and on TikTok, then it's not gonna, so it's better that the 13-year-old watches it with you. And that's purely my opinion, and you don't have to follow that. But all of this is my opinion. I think Swayze is a godsend. Jennifer Grey was perfect. The story was rammed full of story. I don't know if I've actually said that enough. This is not a fluffy film. It is, every scene moves the story forward, and it's not about... it's better than a lot of dance films of that age and later on as well. I'm not even going to name them because you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, it deals with real stuff. It's young adult, coming of age, Romeo and Juliet, class system, everything's in there that you could possibly want, and dancing too. And I love it. And that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.